Picture Henry Ford watching the first Model T roll off his assembly line in 1908, or Sarah Blakely hitting $4 million in revenue during Spanx's inaugural year. Those breakthrough moments? Pure entrepreneurial magic fueled by passion, drive, and that infectious enthusiasm that gets businesses off the ground. But here's what every scaling entrepreneur discovers. The very passion that launches your venture isn't what sustains it at altitude. There comes a pivotal moment when raw enthusiasm hits its ceiling, and something else must step in. That something is process. Now I know what you're thinking. Process sounds like the creativity killer, all regulations and procedures. But here's the counterintuitive truth we'll explore today. Properly designed processes don't constrain your business. They liberate it. When you automate routine operations, you free yourself for the big picture thinking and innovation that originally sparked your entrepreneurial journey. Let's discover how discipline becomes your greatest creative tool. Consider two rapidly growing fintech startups, both launching innovative payment solutions in the same competitive market. Company A operates with heroic chaos. Brilliant founders putting out fires daily, making decisions on the fly, with each team member figuring out their own approach. Company B might seem less exciting on the surface, but it's implemented and mastered something powerful, a strong process component. Company B has ensured its core processes are simplified, documented, and followed by all. Think of it this way. Every person on your team knows not just how to do things, but how to do them the right way and the best way, consistently. Here's what's fascinating. Every large, successful company you admire began as a small business. Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, they all started in garages or dorm rooms. Most companies that successfully make the leap to major players do so because they committed to process and consistency long before they reached that billion-dollar valuation. If you're running a small startup right now, this is the moment to start instilling that consistency. Let's return to our fintech example. Company B's strong process component transforms its entire operation. When it onboards a new customer success manager, that person follows a detailed 30-day roadmap that's been refined through dozens of hires. The result? They're productive within weeks, not months. But that's not where processes end. When a payment processing issue emerges at 2 a.m., any engineer can follow the documented incident response protocol, resolving it without waking the CTO. The company's product development follows standardized sprint reviews and quality checks, meaning it ships features consistently rather than in chaotic bursts. Most importantly, its founders can step away for strategic planning because the business runs itself. Company A tells a different story. Its brilliant developers create custom solutions for each client because there's no standardized implementation process, burning through resources and creating maintenance nightmares. When its head of sales leaves, she takes her entire client relationship system with her because it exists only in her head. Customer complaints escalate randomly because there's no consistent resolution framework. The company's founders are trapped in operational details, too busy firefighting to plan for tomorrow's opportunities. Growth becomes their enemy because each new client or employee multiplies the chaos exponentially. Are you getting the picture? Strong processes don't eliminate creativity. They provide the stable foundation that allows innovation to flourish. Picture a scrappy startup that's built a meal planning app connecting busy families with local grocery delivery. It's gaining serious traction. The founders are drowning, customer support tickets piling up, new hires asking the same questions daily, and everyone reinventing the wheel. When you mention process, the founders' eyes glaze over. They're thinking bureaucracy, red tape, the death of innovation. Sound familiar? Here's the liberating truth. Building a strong process component happens in just 3 manageable steps. Identify, document, and simplify, then package. Let's start with that startup leader's first mistake, assuming you need processes for everything. You're managing, not micromanaging. That's why identification is crucial. Think the 80-20 rule. Which processes drive 80% of your results? Identify your business's secret sauce and spread processes across departments. HR onboarding, accounting workflows, customer support protocols. You should end up with 5 to 12 core processes, not 50. Step 2. Simplify and document. Steve Jobs said it perfectly. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. Start by prioritizing. Tackle processes that affect everyone or create the biggest impact first. Assign one team member as the process owner. Here's the key. Begin by observing the current process start to finish. Note the pain points and bottlenecks, but resist the urge to change anything yet. Just watch. Ask yourself what's working, what isn't. Then evaluate what you can add, subtract, or change. Finally, document it, but think one-page checklist, not three-ring binder. Step 3. Package for your people. You've got your steps. Now how do employees access them? Will they need these at their desk or out in the field? Make them ridiculously easy to find. Our meal planning startup identified its core processes: new user onboarding, grocery partner integration, and customer support escalation. It documented each as simple checklists, then packaged them in its team Slack workspace with quick access pins. Within weeks, new hires were productive faster, customer issues were resolved consistently, and those overwhelmed founders finally had breathing room to focus on their next breakthrough innovation. Picture a landscaping company that's done everything right. It's identified its core processes, documented beautiful step-by-step checklists for everything from initial client consultations to seasonal maintenance schedules, and packaged it all in an accessible digital format. The owners pat themselves on the back. Process complete, right? Fast forward 6 months. New crew members are still making costly installation errors. Experienced workers are ignoring the documented best practices, and clients are complaining about inconsistent service quality. What went wrong? The company made a classic mistake. It assumed documentation equals implementation. The reality is that those gorgeous checklists and manuals are worthless if your people don't know how to use them effectively. This is where training becomes your secret weapon, and there are several powerful approaches you can mix and match. Start with the walkthrough method. Have your best performer demonstrate the process while the trainee observes every detail. For complex tasks like designing a garden bed or operating specialized equipment, nothing beats seeing it done right firsthand. Follow this with one-on-one mentoring, where the experienced worker guides the trainee through each step, offering real-time feedback and corrections. Role-playing works brilliantly for client-facing processes. Practice those tricky customer conversations. How do you handle a complaint about brown patches on a lawn, or explain why the irrigation system needs upgrading? Let team members rotate through different scenarios until they're confident and natural. Here's a game changer. Collect videos of your best practices in action. When your star crew leader perfectly executes that challenging slope stabilization technique, capture it on video. These become invaluable training resources that new hires can review repeatedly, and they're particularly useful for seasonal workers who need quick refreshers. The landscaping company that commits to comprehensive training sees dramatic results. Its installation quality becomes consistently excellent, customer complaints drop significantly, and new hires become productive weeks faster. Most importantly, its documented processes actually get used instead of gathering digital dust. Remember, documentation creates the roadmap, but training ensures your people can actually follow it. Here's a story that perfectly illustrates the power of measurement. The CEO of a distribution company was frustrated. His trucks were making multiple runs daily, but turnaround times at the loading dock were dragging down efficiency. When he asked his operations manager about reducing these times, he got the standard response: "It's impossible to go any faster." One morning, the CEO grabbed a stopwatch and headed down to the loading dock. Curious drivers asked what he was doing. "Measuring your turnaround time," he replied. "What's the goal?" they wanted to know. 30 minutes, he said simply. Something remarkable happened. The drivers picked up their pace, started asking warehouse personnel for help, and began finding creative ways to streamline their loading process. Within days, they were consistently hitting that 30-minute target. As scientist Lord Kelvin famously said, "If you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it." This brings us to a crucial truth about process implementation. Measuring how well your processes are followed isn't just helpful, it's essential. Without measurement, you're essentially hoping your beautifully documented processes will magically implement themselves. People need feedback loops to stay engaged and improve performance. But here's where the 80-20 rule becomes your friend. Don't try to measure everything. That's a recipe for analysis paralysis. Instead, pick key metrics that give you meaningful insights. For a restaurant, it might be table turnaround time and order accuracy. For a consulting firm, it could be project delivery timelines and client satisfaction scores. For that landscaping company we discussed earlier, measuring job completion times and callback rates would tell you volumes about process effectiveness. Self-counting or self-reporting works surprisingly well when tied to a strong company mission. When people understand how their metrics connect to bigger goals, like customer satisfaction or team success, they become genuinely invested in tracking their own performance. Consider implementing a company scorecard method. Create a simple dashboard that tracks your core process metrics, updated weekly. Make it visible to everyone. Transparency drives accountability, and accountability drives results. The magic happens when measurement becomes routine. Your team stops seeing it as surveillance and starts viewing it as their pathway to excellence. Let me tell you about a mid-sized accounting firm that seemed to have everything figured out. It had streamlined its client onboarding processes, documented its audit procedures beautifully, and trained every team member thoroughly. Yet something was still missing. Its processes weren't sticking. Senior associates were cutting corners during the busy season, junior staff were reverting to old habits, and consistency remained elusive. The firm had great processes but lacked something crucial: a culture of discipline. Here's the reality. When your processes are finally in place, everyone in management needs to transform this new way of doing things into automatic habits. It's not enough to hope people will naturally embrace change. Start by giving clear direction while listening sincerely to feedback. Your team needs to understand not just what's changing, but why. Reiterate the reasons for pivoting to this culture of discipline: better client outcomes, reduced errors, more predictable workdays, and offer genuine reinforcement and support along the way. Provide everyone with the necessary tools to support the transition. If your new process requires specific software or equipment, don't expect people to make do with outdated resources. Set clear and reasonable expectations. Be specific about what success looks like and realistic about the timeline for adoption. Most importantly, lead by example. If you're asking your team to follow documented procedures, make sure they see you doing the same. Nothing undermines process adoption faster than leaders who consider themselves exempt from the rules they've created. Communicate clearly and give constructive feedback. When someone deviates from process, address it immediately, not with punishment, but with understanding and redirection. Our accounting firm's management made 3 key changes to create its culture of excellence. First, it instituted weekly process check-ins where teams could discuss challenges openly without fear of criticism. Second, it celebrated process wins publicly, recognizing team members who suggested improvements or consistently followed procedures. Finally, partners started every client meeting by reviewing their own process checklists, showing the entire firm that everyone, regardless of seniority, was committed to this disciplined approach. The transformation was remarkable. Process adherence became a source of pride rather than a burden, and the firm's reputation for reliability grew significantly. When discipline becomes cultural, excellence becomes inevitable. Picture a family-owned printing company that's been a model of process excellence for 30 years. Its quality control procedures are legendary, its client service protocols run like clockwork, and its culture of discipline is absolutely admirable. There's just one problem. The company's core processes haven't been updated since the 1990s. While it's still manually typesetting and using traditional offset printing, its competitors have embraced digital workflows and on-demand printing. Its excellent discipline is now disciplined excellence at doing the wrong things. This brings us to a crucial lesson from industries that can't afford to stand still. Medical practices must constantly update their procedures to incorporate new treatments and technologies. A cardiologist using techniques from 20 years ago would be considered dangerously outdated. Software companies release updates constantly to stay competitive. These businesses understand something vital: excellence without evolution equals extinction. You need to run your business like one that must stay on the cutting edge. Don't be the taxi company that doesn't see Uber coming, or the bookstore that dismisses online retail. The market never stops moving, and neither should your processes. Make updating your core processes an annual discipline, at minimum. Here's how to approach it effectively. Start by gathering feedback from 3 key groups: your frontline employees who live these processes daily, your customers who experience the results, and your industry peers who might be innovating in ways you haven't considered. Look for pain points that have developed over time, new technologies that could streamline operations, and changing customer expectations that your current processes don't address. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Pick 1 or 2 processes per quarter for focused improvement, and test changes on a small scale before rolling them out company-wide. Our printing company's management finally recognized they needed to evolve. They spent 6 months researching digital printing technologies, sent their team to training programs, and completely redesigned their client consultation process to include digital options. They updated their quality control procedures to handle both traditional and digital workflows. Within a year, the company had not only regained competitive ground, but had surpassed many competitors who'd started digital earlier but hadn't refined their processes. Never forget, process discipline without process evolution is a recipe for irrelevance.